Well, it's so wonderful to have an opportunity to speak to all of you. Admiral, let me come to you first, Admiral Gupta. Let me ask you a quick question. When your fighter jet during 1971 was struck by enemy gunfire, when the controls of the aircraft became very difficult, you still pressed on with your attack and you managed to return to Vikram. How close was it? Yep. You'll just pass this on. Yeah, it's working. Go ahead.
At the spur of the moment, there was never any anxiety. I was leading another 7 aircraft behind me, so there was no question of giving up anyway halfway. It never even occurred to me. All I did was reduce my power and reduce speed from 450 knots to 250 to gain control of the aircraft. And since all the other aircraft were following me, they knew exactly what was happening, and they allowed me to rendezvous with them on the way back. And I led the strike back again, 8 aircraft back on board Vikrant. It was really something we were trained for. Earlier, before this particular incident, we've had a number of anti-aircraft fire shells exploding around us. Like we saw in movies before, we had no such experience before. And they were really bursting all around us and shaking the aircraft. So we knew at one time one of us would be hit. In fact, 8 aircraft were hit in all. But they all succeeded in coming back. And I think the reason, simple reason, is that there's no other place to land. There's only the Vikrant, which is the mothership. And we've all been trained to land almost blindfolded. You won't believe it. There were 2 instances, for example. I'm digressing a little, but I thought there were other 2 Veer Chakras when the windshields were smashed and they were brought on board in a section, and they landed on board without being able to see where they were going by their leaders. So similarly, the incident that happened in my case was just one of those incidents. But I think the real reason was that Vikrant was a limping ship. And Vikrant, to land on the ship under marginal conditions, was a challenge.
And it was on that day. And thank you so much for sharing that experience. I wanted to go across to Vishal. You know, we've spoken many times in the past with you. When that casket carrying the mortal remains of your brother came back home, you opened that and you took your brother in your bare hands, right? And you felt that you were a man at that moment. What were your thoughts? Why did you do that?
Good evening to everyone. So of course, you know, when we receive the coffin, incidentally what happens when a person dies, you start calling a person not with the name, but you call it the body, which I hated. So I always ended up, mentioning that when we opened the coffin and when I took the Vikram out, that was the first ever cremation for me in my life. And of course, I had a little tough with my father when we cremated him because I said, I don't want to lick my brother. And being an identical twin sibling, younger than by 14 minutes, we had shared a childhood which was very loving. But then, of course, since it was the first experience for me to really lit the pyre, I only thought that, I recollected my days when we attended our first SSB together, because I'm a thrice not recommended by the board, and whenever somebody asked me, Vishal, you never thought of joining the army? I always ended up saying that army never wanted a second Batra because one was enough, right? So I only ended up believing that, of course, I'll have to carry forward his legacy because I'm a twin sibling. And I personally thank God that I think the God wanted me to carry forward his legacy like this. And to me, the thought which still continues that Vikram continues to live because 25 years, it's been 25 years now, and the famous punchline, Ye Dil Mange Mo, I was just sharing with one of the journals here. I think General Dua, we were just discussing that, was it a Pepsi line or was it a Coke line? And now it is a Vikram Batra's line, right? So I think what he did for the country, to me, I fundamentally believe the soldiers never die. right? So for me, he continues to live, he continues to inspire, and I believe that he's among us. And I think he's been inspiring me, he's inspiring a lot of young Indians. So all those feelings do come back, but I think what he's done for the country at the young age of 24, not many would have done it. So there's a lot of pride as well, right?
Absolutely. Incredible pride. Mrs. Nair, we know about your son's exploits as a soldier. What was he like as a son?
Basically, it's a very difficult question. Only a mother can realize losing the son. The pain is so much. At times people say it is pride and pain. I always say pride and pain, of course, there, but the pain wins the proud sometimes. And most of the times, in my case, Anuj was a very good son, very good brother, and moreover, he was a very good soldier, मेरे को एक चीज़ याद है उसकी, जब वो 97 में अपनी फर्स्ट पोस्टिंग पे जा रहा था, तो आई वॉज लिटिल इमोशनल. तो मुझे कहता है, माँ, इस देश की अगर हर माँ आपके तरह हो गई तो इस देश को पाकिस्तान ले जाएगा. एंड सर, वो एक लाइन ने मेरे को इतना स्ट्रॉन्ग किया कि एज मदर ऑफ ए आर्मी ऑफिसर मुझे रोने का भी अधिकार नहीं है. मैं अनुज के लिए हूँ इस समय, अदरवाइज मैं इतना फंक्शन में जाती नहीं हूँ, क्योंकि आई रियली थैंक NDTV और स्पेशली यू आपने अनुज की किताब में इतना अच्छा पेज लिख के दिया, मुझे फॉरवर्ड लिख के दिया. सो मच थैंक यू सर. एंड कुछ नहीं कह सकती, आई एम स्टिल इमोशनल.
Ma'am, delighted. Mrs. Babu, I don't know how you do it, but in speaking to you briefly as I have, the loss is something of Colonel Babu that you, your family, your children who are with us will never be able to forget about, will never be able to overcome. But there's also that incredible sense of pride at what he did. How do you balance that sense of loss and that unbelievable sense of pride?
A very good evening to all of you and everyone here. They all are going through the same pain, and pride is also there. We feel it's come to sometimes its places. We feel very proud. As a officers, he sacrificed for country. Family side, we are missing a lot each and every day. Children are asking, of course, so I will explain them as a pride how father is work for nation.
He's looking down at all of us from somewhere up there. Is there anything else that you'd like to share about Colonel Babu, ma'am?
He's a very brave and cherished person.
Was he your best friend, ma'am?
Yes, he is. So now I'm missing a lot. We are missing him each and every day to share our feelings, our daily routines. So we discuss with my kids and we are moving ahead. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing those words. Ma'am, Group Captain Varun Singh, I don't know if he was Group Captain then or he was a bit younger and more junior, wrote that wonderful letter where he said you don't have to be brilliant in studies. You just have to be who you are, and you have to be courageous and you have to be determined. I think that was his focus. Tell us a little about why he wrote that.
Well, he was a very obedient child, that I would say. And I'm really glad that he imbibed values of respecting elders and especially his gurus. We are from a background of not teachers, but literatures. We there are many people in my family who writers, poets, etc. But I'm glad that he put into use that value which was imbibed in him at the right time to encourage children. And I'm proud of him, very proud of my son. our son, in fact. And,
I think he's the son of India. We are all proud of him.
well, thank you so very much. If I may take one more moment, I would like to take this platform as an opportunity to thank each and every living soul who has wished well for Varun, for his good health, to recover, and not just India, across the globe, I have felt that wave of warmth, that solidarity with us, which has made us going. I, on behalf of my family, are indebted and grateful to each one of you. I'm sure in your thoughts, words, and deeds, you have wished well for Varun. Thank you very much.
Come. Sir, you know, it was so tragic how Varun ultimately, after that helicopter crash, he fought and fought, but ultimately he perished. He succumbed to those injuries. But he was a fighter pilot, and a brilliant one at that, just like the Admiral over there. And he was a brilliant fighter pilot of the Tejas aircraft when he encountered an unbelievable emergency. He had the option of ejecting. Some would have said perhaps he should have. Instead, he fought the aircraft and an incredible systems failure and landed it. And in the process, that problem was fixed. Tell us about Varun, the fighter pilot.
You see, first I'll tell you something about the letter. Varun himself was a shammer
Oh, was he? Okay.
when he was a student. And his biggest enemies were maths and physics. And without these two subjects, you just can't fly. But since he had passion for flying, he made friends with these two subjects. And, you know, as the journey in Air Force, he became a qualified instructor, QFI, and then a test pilot.
Yeah.
And then he was selected for Gaganyaan also. So everywhere he had to study maths and physics, and he didn't have any problems later. Now, you're talking about the incident of 12th of October. I got a call from him. He says that, Papa, first thing I want to tell you is, the aircraft is one piece, I'm in one piece. And that's all. So I said, what happened? He said there were some minor problems and everyone wanted me to eject. But I was over Mohan Nagar, so I couldn't. Also, I wanted to, my aircraft, how could it crash? Later on, his course-mates friends, they told me that out of 1,999 would have ejected.
Right.
So that passion to save the aircraft, and later I was told by HAL that had this aircraft not been saved, there would have been very serious problem to our indigenous Tejas project.
Absolutely.
Because this would have been the first crash, which people are still waiting. There are lobbies who are waiting that if the Indian aircraft
And he's
fails,
stuck
we
with
can...
the aircraft,
he's
managing,
stuck
in
with
fact,
it.
to,
Yes.
to land it. Remarkable. And, sir, I must come
Thank
to
you.
you. You were a course mate of General Bipin Rawat. We know him as a soldier. We know him as a military leader. What was he as a cadet?
Bipin was my classmate in addition to being the course mate in
Also
ND,
classmate and course mate.
and course
right.
mate.
Where was this? Which school? Or?
This was in the National Defense Academy.
Right, at the end, right.
Yeah. He was from the Charlie Squadron and I was from the Alpha Squadron. So same battalion, right across. I can sum up Bipin as, you know, I would say that from that time, he was just an example of officer and a gentleman. That's primarily the first impression that I had at that time. Most of us being shammers, as Sir rightly mentioned about shamming, and rogues in the class, the 53rd course, number 3 division of the social science stream, a lot of them must be actually waiting to hear what I'm going to say today. But amongst the rogues, Bipin was a balancing factor who shepherded us right through from that time onwards. A good friend, a thorough gentleman, right from the Indian Military Academy days when he won the Sword of Honor. He has always topped all the courses and has done all the criteria appointments in the army to reach the level of the first CDS, the right choice at that time by the government. And he has laid the foundation stone for the joint operations concept in Indian Armed Forces.
Yeah.
I really appreciate the kind of work that he has done in the 2 years. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you would welcome and honor all of these men and women, the families over here, with a standing ovation. I'd ask you all to please stand as we welcome them off the stage. Thank you so much. We feel honored and privileged to have the chance to speak to all of you, to remember your loved ones. All of you, thank you very much.